because I want you to know something that's very, very important. Where you are today has absolutely nothing at all to do with where you can be tomorrow. What's exciting about for me this weekend is 10 years ago, my life was upside down. And this is a celebration of that. Claim Your Power Now is what I created as a way to give back for what's happened in my life. And it happened at a seminar. It happened at a weekend seminar. And that's why we do these. That's why I wanted to begin this. Now, this is where I live in the world. And it's a little lake. About 6,000 acres, not that little, but a little lake in Melrose, Florida, population 500. People ask me where I live. That's from the second story. That's what I look at every day. If you get e-zine articles from me, if you get emails from me, I usually write them watching that right there, so you can see what I'm influenced by. It is very peaceful, very quiet. It is sometimes such an idyllic life that I really pinch myself when I get up in the morning and I walk out and you know, the sun comes up on the other side of the house. I didn't buy a house where the sun comes up because I don't get up to see the sun. Okay, I've told people if God wanted me to see the sunrise, He'd have put it about noon. Okay, I'm not going to get up any earlier than that. So I bought a house that faces west because I wanted to see the sun set. And out in that gazebo the other night, I sat out in that gazebo and I wrote a letter to you, and you're going to get that letter this afternoon. And I sat out in that gazebo, and I watched the sun go down over those trees. And I was just so unbelievably grateful because 10 years ago, this was the 1040 federal income tax form that I filed. And if you go to the bottom line down there, the net income, the taxable income for that year was $14,027 for the entire year. That's for a family of 5. Now, I know that for Ogbo and for Falaki and for some of the other people, that is wealth. But in the United States, $14,027 for a family of 5 qualifies you at the federal poverty level. 2 of my children are here this weekend. The big ugly guy and the short good-looking guy are both my sons. And they're on that form right there. And they were both at home at the time. And, you know, what I'm excited about is to celebrate this weekend that my children could be here and celebrate because of some of the things that we celebrated together that weren't so much fun. Now, I show you this, and I will talk this weekend about the dichotomy in my life, about the 2 extremes. Because I want you to know something that's very, very important. Where you are today has absolutely nothing at all to do with where you can be tomorrow. I had to understand in 1997, we had been evicted from our home. We had lost the last automobile that we had. For more than a year, I drove an automobile that I borrowed from a friend. I had to understand. And I had to come to the conclusion that if I continued to study and continued to dwell on those circumstances, what was going to happen? I was going to get more of it. Because what you focus on expands. What you focus on expands. Where you are today has nothing to do with where you can be tomorrow. You know, I will never forget the day that I check out of this life and I go to the next one. This is the last thought I will have, probably, of my fiancée and my children and their significant others being together in Rome, Italy, where we spent a week together this year. It was the most glorious time that I've ever experienced in my life. Now, I can't imagine that and where it was 10 years ago. If I had dwelled on where I was 10 years ago and stayed there, and I did for a while, I'd still be there today. Where you are today has absolutely nothing where you can be tomorrow, except today has a lesson that you must learn. Whatever it is, I don't know what it is. It has a lesson that you've got to learn. And until you learn that lesson, it will keep presenting itself to you to learn. Once you've learned that lesson, guess what? It will pass away. You no longer need it. It will pass away, and another lesson will come along to present itself. When you learn that lesson, it will pass away. Now, here's what's hard to believe. I could not do what I'm doing this morning had I not lived what I did 10 years ago. Everything that I'm doing now, in fact, folks, here's what you're getting. You're getting this morning 54 years of lessons. Everything that you've done up until today, up until this very moment, has prepared you for what you're going to do tomorrow. And you've got to see that in the good, and you've got to see that in what you perceive to be the bad. See, there's some circumstances that you have in your life that you perceive now as bad, as negative, as garbage, as junk. And I know some of them aren't pleasant, but there's a lesson there. Find the lesson. Learn the lesson. And you will look back. Yesterday, for the last day and a half, we've been in a meeting with our Platinum Council Champions Club, and we get together a couple times a year. And most of the week, most of the day and a half that we're together is about Champions Club members sharing what's been working for them in their life and the challenges that they have. And it's a big mastermind is what it is. And what's amazing is I sat there through the day and a half, almost every challenge I heard them present to the group, I've had. And almost every challenge they presented to the group, I could think of a solution. Now, it may not have been the best solution, but it was a solution. Why? Because I'd lived it. Now, I wouldn't want to have to do again what I did in 1997. How many of you guys, how many of the men in here have daughters? How many have one daughter? You have one? Two? Who has one? Sir, is she just the very essence of the apple of your eye? Guys, you understand this. Ladies, for a man who has one daughter, that daughter is very special. My sons are special too. Don't believe me, I love my sons, but they're different. It's different. And that daughter is the apple of my eye. When that daughter turns 13, isn't that a special moment when she becomes a teenager? Every transition period is very special. When my daughter turned 13, I was so dadgum broke I couldn't afford to buy her a stupid birthday present. That's how bad it was. And I cried myself to sleep that night. It hurt. Now here's what's interesting. I asked my daughter a couple of years ago about that, thinking it must have scarred her, certainly. She didn't even remember it. She didn't even remember it. She said, Daddy, what have you been worried about? I've never remembered that. Now, I wouldn't want to have to go through that again. That was gut-wrenching. But I'd do it all over again. Because it delivered a life today. The opportunity to come today and share with you is a dream. The opportunity to come today and touch you in some way to bring people like Lisa Jimenez. I'm telling you, when Lisa Jimenez gets through with you this afternoon, you'll be able to walk through any wall if you'll listen to what she says. She will teach you how to conquer fear. Kyle's going to come up here in a little while. If you'll open up and let Kyle touch your life, Kyle will touch it in a way like it's never been touched before. And for me to have the opportunity to bring that to you, I had to do that. I had to go through that crap. I'd do it all over again. All over again. Because the result's worth it. So where you're at today, forget it. However you came in that door, forget it. Just find the lesson this weekend. While you're here, find the lesson that's in your circumstance right now. And when you've identified it, put a plan together this weekend and begin to take action this weekend. Do not wait till Monday. Don't say, well, I'll start on Monday. I'll start on November the 1st. I'll start on January the 1st. Start this weekend. Take some type of action. The Champions Club member, and please forgive me, I don't remember which one yesterday. She's not here. Maria Louisa had to go back to Chicago. But she's been doing a habit thing where she adopts a new habit every 21 days. And she's been doing that since the first of the year. Do you think her life is different today than it was in January when she started? Start today. Start this weekend. Find the lesson. Create a plan. It doesn't have to be very elaborate. Just write down a couple of steps that you're going to take and then start taking them.